Hi everybody and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking. And today I'm creating an old Nova Scotia classic recipe called Blueberry Grunt. Now I know that's not a very appetizing sounding name, but what it actually is blueberry dumplings. I'm just going to dive right into my recipe and start adding ingredients. Now this is a version that you cook in a pot on the top of the stove. It can also be baked in the oven, and that's also really good too. But this is I like this method. You don't have to have an oven to cook this, and in the summertime when it's hot, as it frequently is in August, when blueberries are ripe and available, that you don't want to heat your kitchen up with turning on the oven. So anyway, of course later on in the fall, when you still have blueberries around in September and October, it might be cooler and you might want to heat up the oven, put it on in the oven. Anyway, I've got 4 cups of blueberries, fresh ones. Look at the size of these blueberries, people. Those are commercial high bush berries. Now, when I was a girl and we were doing blueberries, they were wild, low bush blueberries. So you were on your hands and knees with a blueberry rake or picking them by hand. And my grandfather had a blueberry place, and that was my first job, is raking blueberries. And it was the hardest money I ever earned in my life. Let me tell you, it was very hard going. Anyway, I'm going to put these straight into my saucepan. 4 cups of these gorgeous blueberries, which I missed a few stems here. I'm going to pick off a couple of stems here. Not that you can't eat the stems, but they are a bit crunchy. Anyway, okay, blueberries in. And now I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of nutmeg and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon to this. There we go. In it goes. And to that I'm also going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar right on top here, just like that. And now what goes next is a tablespoon of lemon juice. And here we go, tablespoon of lemon juice in there, right like that. There you go. And next, here's a half a cup of water to go in on top. Now this is a full batch of the topping, the sauce, and I'm going to be cooking this on top of my stove. And this is what it all looks like in the pot, all just raw blueberries and a bunch of stuff on top, right? So I'll come back again in about 15 minutes when this is cooked. What's it say to cook it? It says, heat the berries, spices, sugar, lemon juice, and water. Let me just hold up my cookbook. Blue Magic, published by the province of Nova Scotia. And it is, let's see, Blueberry Grunt, 6 to 8 servings. Only if you're not very hungry. All right, 1 liter or 4 cups of wild or fresh frozen blueberries, 2 milliliters of nutmeg or half a teaspoon, 2 milliliters of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon, 175 milliliters of sugar, or 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 15 milliliters of lemon juice or a tablespoon of lemon juice, 125 milliliters of water or a half a cup of water, okay? And your dumplings, you're going to use 500 milliliters of flour. Okay, now about the dumplings. You can make the full batch if you want to, but I find that half a batch of dumplings is more than enough dumplings to go with this amount of sauce. Personally, we like lots of sauce for our dumplings. So my husband and I are going to be eating this tonight, so I'll half this recipe, but I'll tell you the full recipe anyway. But what I'm going to be making is actually going to be half of this, okay? So it calls for 500 milliliters of flour, or 2 cups, 200 milliliters of baking powder, 4 teaspoons, 2 milliliters of salt, a half a teaspoon, 15 milliliters of sugar, a tablespoon, 300 milliliters of butter or shortening, which is 2 tablespoons. And then it says enough milk to make a soft biscuit dough, which is like, if you've never done this before, you're going to be going, what? What does that mean? Well, I checked it out. And it took me about 3/4 of a cup of milk, which is about 170 milliliters of milk. So you're going to have to kind of judge that when you're mixing it. Because what you want is a soft biscuit dough, something that's softer than the ones I made that you roll out and cut with a cookie cutter. Because these are going to be very soft. You're going to just scoop them up and blob them on top of your hot sauce as it's bubbling. So they want to be just a little wetter than your regular biscuits, okay? So now for the method. Heat your berries, spices, sugar, lemon juice, and water in a skillet. Boil gently till well blended and slightly cooked down. Now isn't that a wonderful direction? It doesn't give you any idea how much time it's going to take you. Now you sift your flour. Sift. Who owns a flour sifter? Not me. I'm just going to be putting them just in a bowl and mixing them together with a fork. Sift flour, baking powder, salt, and sugar into a bowl. Cut in the butter and add enough milk to make a soft biscuit dough. Drop by spoonfuls into the hot berry sauce. Cover tightly with a tight-fitting lid and simmer for 15 minutes. Well, I found 25 to 30 minutes was more like it. You want to cook your biscuits, but you're not going to brown them. So you're just going to have to look at them, and they're going to be cooked, but they're not going to be doughy, but they're not going to be browned. So the dumplings should be puffed and well cooked through. Transfer your cooked dumplings to a serving dish or to an individual serving bowl, and then ladle your hot sauce over the top. Serve that with whipped cream, what else, or ice cream. And I'd say nice quality vanilla ice cream, or even blueberry ice cream, which we have around here. And it is delicious. Another thing that you can also add to this is maple syrup. If you happen to have the real stuff kicking around, you just warm up a little maple syrup and pour it over your, oh, wow, fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to cook this on the stove, and I'll be back to show you what the cooked up blueberries should look like, and I'll tell you how long it took me to get them that way. And I'll do my biscuits and show you how to do this, what kind of soft biscuits they're talking about, and how much milk I used. Oh, my blueberry sauce is still cooking on the stove. It's been on for about 7 minutes or so, but that's okay. I'm going to start my biscuits so they'll be all ready to pop on top of it as soon as it's ready to go. So I'm only making half a batch of the dumplings, which will be, when I post this, the recipe below will be the full recipe. But right now I'm only going to make half because it's just my husband and I, and we find that half a batch, plenty of dumplings for my husband and myself. So in my bowl I have 1 cup of flour, that's all-purpose flour, which should be hard flour or bread flour, depending on where you live. But anyway, so I've talked about bread flour before, and all-purpose flour in Canada made from hard durum wheat. Anyway, okay. In here I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not baking soda, but baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And next I'm going to add a 1/2 tablespoon, which is 1.5 teaspoons of sugar to that. So if you have a 1/2 tablespoon measurement, great. If you don't, just do 1.5 teaspoons. Now I'm going to blend this together with my fork because I don't have a sifter. We have to do with what we have. And so just a simple stir around with a fork will make all those ingredients become like as if you sifted them. You just have to do it a little bit. There you go. Make sure you do that before you add the butter. And now I've got my 1 tablespoon of butter. Yes, 1 tablespoon of butter here. And that's going in. And now, as I do have a pastry blender, I'm going to blend that butter in here. This is hard from the refrigerator. This is one of the secrets of good biscuits, is cold milk and cold butter that you're shortening, or butter that you're putting in your biscuits needs to be hard from the fridge. The coldness of the butter contrasted with the hotness of the oven or your cooking thing will make your biscuits explode and puff. So that'll make them even flakier. That's a secret to making nice fluffy biscuits. Or dumplings, for that matter. I mean, it sounds a little complicated, but you try it a couple times and it is so simple and easy to do. Once you get the hang of it, it's like any learning curve. Once you achieve it, it's simple. You're going to go, why did I think that was hard? Because you know what? Cooking is not hard. Women of limited education that could hardly read or write, some of them who couldn't read or write, have been baking and cooking for years, centuries, generations, and using much more primitive equipment than what we have available to us today. Now I've got my dumpling biscuit dough kind of all mixed in here. I have made my butter all nice and soft, and look at that. See, you can't really even see the butter in there, but it's all mixed in there very thoroughly. Now I'm just going to make a little well in the middle of my thing with my fork. Just make a little hole, which doesn't really show up very well in the camera, but you see that I made a little well here in the middle, I hope. And then you just pour your milk. And I've got about 3 ounces here of milk because I'm making half a batch. So that's half of 170, whatever that is, milliliters. And I'm just going to stir this up and have a nice wet biscuit dough. And if it's not wet enough, I'll add a little more milk to it to make it looser. Because I don't want it to be a real firm biscuit, I want it to be a little bit sticky, too sticky to roll into a biscuit. I want it to be, so I think I might have to add a bit more milk to this, another tablespoon or so, because today, I think it varies with the atmosphere and the conditions and so on, because there should be plenty of milk to give me a loose biscuit dough, and it isn't today. My biscuits are just kind of, I think they need just a bit more, another ½ ounce or so of milk. A teaspoon or so of milk, there. Oh, that's 15 minutes for my, I set a timer for 15 minutes. So that's 15 minutes that my sauce has been on, so I'm just gonna go over there and check on that for a second. Now my sauce behind me there on the stove is boiling, and my berries are cooking, and they're cooked up, and I just have to, now that looks more like it. There, now that is a soft biscuit dough. See? Okay, sorry, we were interrupted by the telephone ringing, and this is what a sticky biscuit dough should look like. See how it's not forming into something that I could roll. It would stick to your fingers like crazy, and that's what we're looking for. All the flour and everything inside has been gathered up, and that's going to make a wonderful dumpling. When I drop that off my spoon, which I have here, on top of my hot blueberry sauce. Now I just have to cook my blueberry sauce on top of the stove. I'm just going to leave this alone because I don't want to make my dumplings tough. I'm just going to scrape that off of here with my thing and get rid of this fork. Get rid of this stuff. And I want to do a shout out to my grandson. Here's your Lego here, just to remind you that Grammy's still thinking of you and Grammy's taking good care of your Lego. And I can't wait to see you again. So next time we'll be cooking together. That's a Grammy promise. We're going to cook something together, you and me. Okay? Okay, my sauce has been cooking for about 20 minutes. So I think that's quite long enough. The blueberries are all cooked. Alright, I'm just going to tip that down into the pot just so you can see the pot of blueberry sauce. So that's a little runny. And if you want to put that on for more than 20 minutes, I find that that's enough. And my dumplings will absorb that. And then I'll come back and show you what they look like after 25 minutes. They'll be all cooked and ready to serve. Yummy, delicious. Now, I just take a thing like this of blueberries, dumpling, and put that on top. And on top of my blueberries. I'll show you what this looks like after I get them all in here. Of course, you know what they look like. It's nothing at all to what they taste like. There you go. That's what they look like. Oops. There you go. There's my raw dumplings on top of my blueberry sauce. I'm now going to put that on top of my stove and cook that with the cover on for 20-25 minutes. No peeking. Your stove and leave it. If you peek, you'll ruin your recipe, because that's the main thing, is that you will let the steam and heat out of here and stop the cooking process of your dumplings. So you need to be patient and leave them alone. Okay? So I'll be back in a half an hour, 20 minutes, to show you as I'm serving up my delicious blueberry grunt, which, if they wanted to make it sound more appetizing, they could have called it blueberry dumplings, right? But that's the good old folks from back in the day, right? Here we are, 25 minutes later, and the blueberry grunt has been cooking on top of the stove on a simmer for all that time. And now I'm going to lift the lid, and we're both going to see what it turned out like. Look at this. Ta-da! Ooh, look at those. Look at those yummy looking dumplings. Hope you can't see them. Here. Now this method of cooking doesn't brown your dumplings, so if you like brown ones, you'll have to cook them in the oven. But this is a really nice Look at them, they've just absorbed all that juice, just like sponges of blueberry goodness. All those islands floating in a blueberry syrup. Look at that. Blueberry sauce. Look at that. And a couple little dumplings here and a nice serving of blueberry sauce on top. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now you can just add a nice blob of whipped cream or some ice cream to that, or I'm going to add some maple syrup to mine. Just pour a little maple syrup in there, just like that. There we go. This is my finished product, the blueberry grunt, all ready to serve. And I hope you enjoyed watching my recipe today. I hope you'll try this recipe. I hope you'll like and comment and subscribe to my channel, and come back and join me next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking to see what I'm doing next time. And my grandson, here is your Jeep here, your Lego Jeep, and your Velociraptor with the laser cannons on his back. And we'll see you all next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.